And just give me
Welcome,
1 second.
everybody. Welcome to.
If you give me 1 second, I'm just going to see if we can go live to Facebook, and then we'll start. So thanks everyone for your patience. Okay.
All right, I think we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to 3 Keys to Divorce-Proof Your Marriage. My name is Sarah Fletcher. I am a friend and colleague of Vireos, and it's my honor to get to introduce her to you tonight. Let me tell you a little bit about her. She is also known as Pleasure Coach Vireo. She is an expert in sacred femininity and sexuality. She's a licensed belief repatterning practitioner, a Tao Tantric arts facilitator, Kundalini dance teacher, laughter yoga facilitator, positive self-talk coach, best-selling author, and a mother and grandmother. She has been empowering women for over a decade, supporting them to feel more confident in their bodies and busting shame around taboo subjects like sex, grief, and suicide. She has done so much for others, helping them to improve their relationships and really all facets of their life through the work that she does. And I have gotten to be one of those people who she has supported, and she has, just as I said, has supported me so much to build confidence and to see how that has really benefited everyone in my family and my career and every area of life. So welcome all of you once again, and I will let you know you're in great hands with Vireo Carvelian here. She has some wisdom to share tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for that beautiful welcome. And everybody, if you haven't already, if you wouldn't mind mute. Oh, it looks like everybody did now. Mute your mics. That would be great. We will have a question and answer at the end. So congratulations on gifting yourself tonight. I'm super excited to be sharing some of these tools with you here. So welcome. And like I said, we'll have a question and answer at the end. So if you have questions, you're certainly welcome to type them in the chat, but I might actually not always see the chat. So save your questions till the end, and I really look forward to answering them for you. So as Sarah said, we are here for 3 keys to divorce-proof your marriage and really to reconnect. So I would love to know in the chat, what is your intention? You've given up a Sunday night to be here. What are you yearning for? If I could wave my magic wand, what would you like to have received, or how would you like to feel by the end? And I will not mention anybody's name. So everything you type in the chat, whatever I share, I'll just mention what you share, but I won't mention any names. So what is your intention? Why are you here at 3 keys to divorce-proof your marriage? So sometimes the chat comes a little delayed, so I will check those in a moment. And why, I want to share a little bit about why I'm here. So I would love to know if I have permission to share my story with you, my vulnerable story, since we're going to be hanging out together tonight. So give me a hell yes in the chat, or a yes if you're open to hearing my story with you. So and I do hear it's only 1 hour. We are here to invest in our relationship. Input is equal to output. Yeah, so it's always beautiful when we invest time into our relationships. Then yeah, you're going to get something back as well. I see here, hoping to learn tips to keep passion going. Yes, yes, awesome. So keep typing your answers in the chat. And here's the thing that I've learned is when you actually set an intention, you're actually more likely to receive that, because now you're actually looking for that. It's kind of like if any of you have ever bought a new car, you've probably noticed that afterwards you see those cars everywhere. So if you set the intention that you want to have hope or learn some tips, then you're probably going to get some of that out of it here tonight. I see curiosity as well. Curiosity is awesome. All right, so let me share a little bit about myself with you, since we are going to be hanging out for an hour, and I'm willing to stick around for an extra kind of 15 minutes at the end as well to Let me just see what I did here. Okay. So as Sarah said, my name is Vireo, and just for fun, because it's a good icebreaker, I want to say that my name starts with V. It sounds like Cheerio, but it's like V like in vulva and vagina. So I am a pleasure coach, as she said, and relationship coach. And there's a lot of things that I did not learn until I was, I'm 59 years young. I feel and look younger today than I did at 40. And there's a lot of things I didn't learn until 55. And I'm going to be sharing some of those with you here tonight. So I have a master's in education. I am, as she mentioned, a pleasure coach, and I've been supporting hundreds of women since 2008, really in helping women to love and be in their bodies. And then I've also been working with couples, because what has happened is sometimes the woman, the wife in the family is having such changes that some of the men have then asked to work with me, or they've asked me to work with the couples as well. But I predominantly focus on working with supporting women. And I also wanted to let you know that my life really does feel, even in a pandemic, my life feels really ecstatic and orgasmic. And I want to tell you that it has not always been that way, for sure. 10 years ago, as a matter of fact, I was in what they would call a sexless 17-year marriage. Now, I would love to know in the chat if you knew this. I did not know that the definition of a sexless marriage is a marriage that is having sex 10 times or less a year. And unfortunately, my entire marriage was, by the definition of the experts, was sexless, which was very depressing to me to find that out. So let me know in the chat if that's like a surprise for you, or if you already kind of knew that. And, you know, I still am a parent, but my sons are now adults. But at the time, I was a parent of teenage sons. And those of you who have children, I'd love to know in the chat. Let me know if you have kids. Say, yes, I have kids, maybe how old they are. So as an adult, as a parent of teenage sons, sex always seemed rushed and unfortunately really dissatisfying. No blame to my first husband. We were like the blind leading the blind. And oftentimes after sex, when he was asleep, I'm going to be really super vulnerable here. I would lay under the covers and masturbate, and I can't even call it self-pleasuring because it was completely void of pleasure. And I literally was just taking the edge off. And February 2012, I made one of the most difficult decisions at the time. Was I actually chose to leave that first marriage. So I am one of the 50% stats of 50% of first marriages actually end in divorce. So I am one of those. The good news is tonight I'm bringing you the lemonade that I made out of the lemons and the things that I learned during our time together. And a couple of things that I want to share with you is I had been studying sexuality and that for trying to save my marriage. There was other pieces that were a struggle as well, but I ended up being in a relationship for 3.5 years where I did experience what I had read about, and I experienced levels of orgasm and ecstasy that I didn't even know existed. And 3.5 years later, that relationship ended. He actually sent me a text message that said, "I release you." And I was actually on the deck of this cabin where I'm blessed to live now, on the deck of that cabin in a puddle of snot and tears. And my heart, I had a heavy, heavy weight on my heart. And I could hear voices in my head, literally like shouting at me, "You're stupid, you're a failure, you're never going to make it in a relationship." And I really just wanted to curl up in a ball and hide. I didn't want anybody to know that I had failed yet again in relationship. So here I was, a divorced mom, 55 years old, in menopause, and I was terrified. I was terrified that I would never be in a healthy, passionate relationship ever again. And then I had this sudden realization that my whole life, I had been waiting for, I had been actually giving, not only waiting, but giving away the power of my personal happiness away to the men in my life. And not only my happiness, but I'd given away the responsibility of my pleasure and my orgasm. And I didn't know what else to do. I literally dropped to my knees and I prayed and I asked the divine for help me. And it was like I heard a whisper, like my soul talking to me that said, Vireo, be sovereign. I didn't even know what sovereign meant at the time, but something, it was like my soul inside knew what that meant. And I stood up and I looked out at the expansiveness of the trees and I breathed in. And I decided in that moment that I was going to take back my power and I was going to stop blaming somebody else and putting the responsibility for my happiness and my orgasm on someone else. So I just decided to discover what it meant to be sovereign. And I decided to discover this body, my body, and figure out a way to get to know my own body better. So then in my next relationship, I could ask for what I wanted. I could know what I needed and not, be like the blind leading the blind like I had in that first marriage. So I committed 13 months to myself to get to know my body and myself and to only have sex with myself, no dating with anybody else. And I went to Thailand. I became a certified sexuality and pleasure coach. And over the next couple of years, I also became a mindset coach. And day by day, week by week, and month by month, I started to learn these tools and learn things about my female anatomy that in the Western world, I had no idea. And I didn't even know that I didn't know. I dissolved shame and other limiting beliefs that I had around my body and around sexuality. And I started to feel more sensuality and more confidence in my body. And I started to feel liberated. And my clients who I'd been working at the time started calling me the shame buster. And women started coming to me and saying, I want what you have, Vireo. And I discovered and launched my first pleasure program. And women started to reconnect with their bodies and their femininity. They reclaimed their birthright to pleasure. They started to have more intimacy with their husbands and their relationship. They reignited their desire as well. And they started to be happy. That started to ripple out in all areas of their lives. They became more confident to ask for what they wanted in their relationships, in or out of the bedroom. And I really want that for all of you tonight. So whether you're listening to this now live or you're watching on Facebook or you're watching this later, whether you are happily married, whether you are divorced, whether you're single and looking for that next relationship and you just want to prevent, maybe you want to prevent in your next relationship so that you can have a healthy, happy marriage, sexually satisfied, or whether you're here because your relationship is awesome and you want to take it to the next level, then you are in the right place tonight. I'm going to be sharing with you, like I said, the 3 keys to divorce-proof your marriage. And no surprise, you'll probably discover that intimacy, sexuality is one of them. And I really am on a mission to reduce the divorce rate in North America. And I will tell you that the second marriages is actually 65% divorce rate. So that really tells us that if we don't solve some of the things that were not working in the first marriage, that we're just going to make those same mistakes in the second marriage. So that was a really vulnerable share. Diving in, I would love to know in the chat, please let me know. And again, all of this is confidential. Anything you share, I won't say your names. I would love to know, can you relate to any of that? Have you had struggles in your relationship around intimacy? And the thing is that I've learned is that when we shine the light on shame, what happens is shame starts to dissolve. And so you may also discover by sharing in the chat, if you say, yeah, we are struggling with that, or, our intimacy has gone down. The other stat I want to share with you is that 4 years into marriage, trying to remember the exact number, it's something like only 48% of women are actually interested in having sex with their partners. That was really depressing to me. So I am on a mission to increase, like I said, the number of happily married, sexually satisfied couples. And I'm going to talk about how important sexuality is actually in your marriage. So I hear in the chat, yes, after kids, frequency of sex went down. And yeah, that's really, really common. for us in marriages, that life changes after you have kids. So we've got a lot of people online tonight with kids. So some have teenagers, some have babies. And yeah, whether your children are little, we know that it's really demanding to be a parent. Most of us, myself included, had no idea what we signed up for. And I'm actually a grandma now. So I have 2 adult sons and a grandson. So some people have 11-year-old as well. And yeah, so it can become really challenging when we have to juggle being a parent. So I just want to tell you, first of all, if that's happening for you, you are so not alone, and you're in the right place to learn some tips here tonight. I'm also going to be at the end, if I forget, please remind me. I'm going to be inviting you to 2 things. I'm going to be inviting you on Tuesday this week. I have 5 secrets to reignite your intimate desires, because I just found I couldn't share everything in one evening. So I'm actually going to be sharing for 5 days, every single day. So if you want to have 5 date nights starting on Tuesday, I'm going to be gifting that to you as well. And that's probably the last time I'm going to be offering it complimentary. But I just decided with COVID and all that's happening on the planet that I just really wanted to be generous, because I know how many of you have also been at home a lot together. Maybe both of you have been working from home and parenting from home and kids at home. So sometimes having that proximity together can be add a lot of stress to the relationship as well. So I hear as well that chronic pain is part of it, and health issues. Yeah, all of those factors. So let's just take a breath into that. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you here tonight, and please do continue to comment in the chat. And like I said, at the end, I will have a question and answer. And then the second thing I will be inviting you is I have a few spots that I'm opening up for a pleasure breakthrough if some of you are interested. So that will be my invitation to you at the end. So let's do a quick share here. All right. So just a reminder, if you have other devices on, I'm really going to invite you to shut your phone off so that you can give this time to yourself. And that's one of the things I could have probably mentioned tonight, is we are so run by technology that sometimes we're not even with our partner. When we're with our partner, we have our phones there. So I didn't mention this in the 3 keys, but one of them I would say is, don't bring your phone in the bedroom. Shut your phone off when you're on a date. So if you're on a date here tonight, because I know some of you are, just shut your phone off and give yourselves fully to each other for this time. Be with each other here. I promise you, you will get way more out of it. Close your other browsers, be 100% here. I can't remember the exact stats, but this is approximate. We recall 10% of what we hear. We recall 30% when we actually write it down. So I'm going to invite you to grab a piece of paper and write down some things. Even if you don't refer to them later, it helps the brain. And then we recall 60% when we share and speak about it. So when I invite you to type in the chat, when you share about it, you're going to be more likely to remember some of the things I'm sharing you with here tonight, so you can implement them in your relationship. And we recall 80% or more when we practice and we teach it. So when you take some of the skills I'm going to share with you here tonight and you practice them, especially right away, you're going to really get way more from tonight. So give me a yes if you're up for being 100% here, or just type 100% in the chat if you're up for being 100% here. So again, I'm going to invite you to do that, because that's going to help your brain to keep engaged. So if I do that, it's not to annoy you. All right, so I'm getting 100%, 100%, 100%. Yes, so everybody raise your right arm, give yourself a pat on the back for showing up and being 100% here. And it gives your partner the message that you matter as well to each other. All right, so intentions, we already did that. We already talked about first and second marriage. So we'll jump into, I already shared my mission with you, which is to reduce the divorce rate. I already shared my story. All right, so who would like to know the first key to divorce-proof your marriage? Give me a hell yes in the comments if you're up for that. So the first key is to create healthy communication. And I took these stats actually from, there were seven reasons that marriages ended in divorce. And I took the problems that they had and flip them into solutions. So I'm getting some hell yeses in the comments. Okay, so create healthy communication. What does that look like? And I'm going to go into that quite a bit here tonight. And my intention is, with some of the tips that I share with you tonight, that you're going to be able to transform some of that fighting into flirting. So give me a yes in the comment, or put flirting if you would like more flirting in your relationship and less fighting. I've seen some hell yeses. So awesome. And, you know, one of them is to take ourselves a little bit less seriously. So have you ever felt misunderstood? And of course, that's probably a pretty obvious yes for most of us. And if you're with a partner, you could answer these questions with each other. Have you ever reacted or miscommunicated? Yes, right? All of us have done that. Have you ever felt listened to and understood? So I want to talk about what blocks or stops healthy communication. And actually, I'm going to go back for a second. I'm going to actually invite you to write this down. So grab your piece of paper, and I'm hearing here, flirting is way more fun. Yes. So I want you to grab a piece of paper right now. You could do this with your partner or just by yourselves. Do your best to do it without judgment, right? With each other. No judgment. Promise tonight that you're just going to be here to learn. So you're not going to criticize your partner if they say, you know, when I'm interrupted or whatever. So let's just be here to learn, and to, sometimes it can be uncomfortable to say some things. However, you can have great makeup sex. Okay. So what blocks or stops healthy communication? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to type those in the chat, write them down. So share in the chat what blocks or stops healthy communication for you. So I'm hearing misunderstanding. Yeah. What else? What blocks or stops you from communicating with your partner or with another? And this can be an intimate relationship. This can be in pretty much any relationships. A stressful day, frustration. Yes. Multitasking. Yes. So keep them coming in the chat. Sometimes a little delay with my rural internet. And I'm going to share what has come up in the past from other people have shared. So multitasking, not being fully present, no eye contact. So this is one that used to drive me crazy, is when somebody would say to me, yeah, I'm listening, while they're doing something else and they're not even looking at me. So for me, that was a trigger, and I didn't feel like I was being listened to. Not listening from the heart. Judgment. Somebody mentioned at the beginning about being misunderstood, and then also misunderstood. So not listening to understand, when somebody's just listening to, you know, if they're right and you're wrong, and interrupting. Anger. I'm going to be talking about anger a little bit more tonight as well. Excuse me, especially anger that's expressed in abusive, toxic, hurtful ways. Somebody already mentioned when we're tired or exhausted, when we're hungry, when you've been up all night with your baby. I know one of you has got a more of a younger baby, so, or teenagers, right? My teenagers used to start to stay up later than me, and so we can get tired waiting for them to go to bed sometimes. When we're hungry, when somebody blames us for something, when they're righteous, that they're right and we're wrong. Another one is denial. So it could be, we ask somebody, you know, probably men, you could tell me if this is true. As women, sometimes, you know, our men will say, are you okay, or are you upset? And we go, no. So our tone of voice, our body language says clearly we're upset. But sometimes we expect you to read our minds, and so that can cause more miscommunication now again, because our partner is just checking in with us and we say, no, I'm fine. And we're not being able to identify how you feel. So you're triggered and you don't know how to respond, and maybe you're reacting, but you're not even aware, you're unaware. So fear of abandonment. They say that there's two core fears that we have as human beings. One is fear of abandonment, and then the other fear is of not belonging. So let me know in the chat which of those is most of a trigger for you. Which one blocks communication for you the most? Tired. Yeah. Multitasking. Yeah. Okay. So keep them coming in the chat. And, I know some of you are here tonight with your beloved partner. So be kind with each other. And this can be a learning to go, oh my gosh, I didn't know that upset you when I did that. So be willing to be kind and compassionate and generous with each other. All right, let's take a breath into that. So I want to talk about the first key reason, increasing health communication. I want to talk about it in the bedroom now, because that is one of my expertise that I bring to you. So what blocks or stops healthy communication in the bedroom for you? I'm going to give you another moment just to think about that. And if you don't feel ready to be, with your partner vulnerable, you can all write it down privately on your sheet. I do encourage you to write it down. And those of you who are listening on Facebook, if you type them in the chat, then I'm happy to share without mentioning your name. Happy to mention any that you share. And if some of you I know there's some of you watching on Facebook right now, if you want to join later on the question and answer, then maybe Sarah, you could put the link to register on. Actually, I don't know if they can anymore. They might be able to. All right. So I'm going to share what other couples have said in the past. The biggest one is actually shame. And it's often even fear of being shamed. And all of the other ones that we mentioned before. What else blocks or stops healthy communication in the bedroom is we don't actually understand the importance and value of pleasure. And then what happens is, because we don't understand it, we can end up maybe not having intimacy as often if we are fighting more than flirting. And then the less we have it, the less we're actually likely to continue to have lovemaking. So I am going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But all of the things we mentioned earlier also stop healthy communication in the bedroom. And we don't actually realize how much pleasure matters. I mentioned that I'm going to be inviting you at the end to 5 secrets to reignite your intimate desires. I am not going to be going into pleasure as much tonight. If you decide to gift yourself, like I said, it's going to be free probably for the last time. I am going to actually talk about pleasure in more detail. And one of the things that you'll learn in the 5 secrets, which you'll be with me for 5 days, 5 hours, a date night, 6:30 to 7:30, whatever time you're here tonight, same time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And one of the things I'm going to be talking about is sexual reflexology. So when you're making love or self-pleasuring, you are actually nourishing your vital organs in your body. So it actually contributes to your longevity. It actually contributes to building your immune system. All right. So I will be going into that more during the 5 secrets. But tonight we had 1 hour plus Q&A, so we won't have time to go into that tonight. So when we are triggered, 90% is from the past. So when we're upset, when our partner interrupts us or something happens and we're reacting, that actually comes from when we're in utero to 7 years old. And for a lot of us, it could be unhealed childhood, or in some cases, sexual trauma, if it's in the bedroom that this is happening. And 10% is actually connected to what's going on in the present moment or situation. So that's kind of good news, bad news. The good news is that you can do something about it then, that each of us individually can own our part and do something about it. We don't have to be stuck in the trauma from the past. So I want to talk a little bit about how our brain works. And my sense is, and my hope is, that you will be way more compassionate towards yourself and towards each other after you learn how the brain works. And this is around communication. So when we are feeling or experiencing shame, humiliation, guilt, blame, apathy, hopelessness, despair, depression, grief, regret, sadness, fear, anxiety, anger, and hate, these are really draining emotions. When we're experiencing pride, courage, neutrality, trust, willingness, acceptance, forgiveness, reason, understanding, love, reverence, joy, serenity, peace, and bliss, these are uplifting emotions. But here's what happens. When we are in these draining emotions, and I'm going to speak more to anger in a little bit, all we have access to are what I call the 4 Fs. Fight, flight, freeze, and FU. Hallway sex. So be kind to, sorry, I'm trying to move that so we don't have to see, so you can see all the words there. So when you are, whether you're making love or you're just making supper together, or you're in your home together, or you're talking on the phone or you're texting, if one person is, we could have here exhausted or tired is also with that, then that person only has access to fight, flight, freeze, or FU. They only have access to their reptilian mind. They don't have access to their prefrontal cortex, so they actually can't make a better choice. So my suggestion to you in your communication would be, when you're in those draining emotions, we don't want to communicate here, and we want to get ourselves over here. Communicate when you are here in the uplifting things. So I want to talk a little bit about anger. Thich Nhat Hanh, in his book, Anger, Cooling the Flames, that book really saved my life and probably saved a lot of grief to other people in my life 5 years ago when I had a complete mental, emotional, nervous breakdown. And Thich Nhat Hanh says that when we are angry, that we should say to our partner, I'm really triggered right now. I'm going to go meditate, go for a walk, go lay down, go read, whatever you're going to go do. You don't have to tell them what you're going to do. You just say, I'm really triggered. I'm going to go take care of myself. And then ideally, what he suggests the other person does is the other person says, thank you, I'm going to hold space for you. Or they just don't say anything necessarily, but they don't add gasoline to the fire. They don't say, no, you can't go. You better talk to me right now. They honor that. And this is great to set up when you're not upset, right? Set it up when you're on the upside. Set it up when you're in the uplifting emotions. So the other person goes and looks at their 10% of, could I have said that differently? I wonder what I did to trigger them. I wonder if he or she is tired. I wonder if they're hungry. Did I say something and hurt them? So the person who's triggered and has the 90% goes and deals with it. Maybe they have an awareness. They come back and they share it. And hopefully you, if you're the other person, you hold space for them and you're compassionate. And it might be, you know what, when you did that, it reminded me of my mom, or it reminded me of my dad, or it reminded me of my uncle. And then they can share with you what was true for them. and you can be kind and compassionate and hold space. So that would be my invitation if you're up for that. And I'd love to know in the chat, is there anybody who, what do you do when you're angry? And if you don't have a strategy, would you like to try out the one I suggested? So you can say, yes to the anger practice. I will try that out. We're curious about that or something. Let me know in the chat let me know if any of this resonates with you, if it lands. All right, let's take a breath into that. So again, I just want to remind you, pleasure is not dessert. Pleasure is not frivolous. It is the main course and it's vital. As I mentioned earlier, pleasure is vital medicine for your vital organs. And again, you will learn about that in 5 Secrets. So when you communicate, many teachers have said this, so this is not mine, what I'm bringing here. I think 4 Agreements talks about don't take things personally, right? Remember when they're triggered, 90% is about their childhood stuff. Now you don't need to rub their face in it. You can just be compassionate and hold space for that. And one of the things I teach in my pleasure program is I teach women how to ask for what they need in a clean and clear way. I used to be absolutely terrible at either not asking for what I wanted or not asking in a clear way. We often as women ask in a very manipulative way. Know and practice how to ask for what you need. Know what you need and desire. And that's one of the things in my pleasure program is if you decide that you're curious about that, I'll have an invitation at the end for you to check that out, is as women, we don't often know our own bodies and we don't even know how to ask for what we want. So you start to learn things that I didn't even know I didn't know about my female anatomy until I was in my 50s. So I teach a lot of women how to self-pleasure and how to have access to health and vitality for your vital organs and how to bring that to your partner in your intimacy. But we need to be able to give it to ourselves first. Otherwise, we can't have it with our partner. And I'm just hearing here in the chat, I used to give the silent treatment often. Yeah, anybody else give the silent treatment? Yeah, I didn't know what else to do, right? And someone said, I've appreciated what I've learned from you and just having compassion for the unresolved trauma. Yes, and been super helpful. Yeah, and then we can be kinder with each other, right? Passive aggressive, yes. Anybody else been passive aggressive? Think that the partner will read your mind. Yes, I think we've all done that. All right, awesome. Okay, and thank you, beautiful Sarah, who's been with us tonight. She does need to leave to pick up her son. So, and then the last part of improving our communication is to get help so that we can heal any trauma or childhood wounds. Because if we don't, remember how I talked about the 90%, that's just going to keep coming up in your relationship. And that impacts every area of our relationship. And we did that already. Okay, so just a reminder, do not communicate or react when you are in those draining emotions. Communicate when you are in the upside. If that's all you take away from tonight, I promise that that is going to support you. So communicate and take 100% responsibility for your feelings, triggers, and communication, and get help. And that's one of the things I'm here if you're called to work with me or called to work with somebody who's got some tools to support you. I want to share with you some of the challenges with communication. One of my clients, Karen, when she came to me, she felt really undeserving. She felt unworthy. She didn't know how to ask for what she wanted with her husband. They were in a blended family, had a toddler and twin boys. And she worked with me, and after 9 months during the pandemic, her husband said it was their best year ever in their marriage. They had more intimacy than they'd ever had before. And she was way more confident in and out of the bedroom, way happier. She was laughing more with her children and just more lightness. She was less stressed. So how many of you would like to know the second key to divorce-proof your marriage? I'm going to take a drink of water. Give me a hell yes. And remember, the more you participate in the chat, the more you will get out of this tonight. This is also for you to keep you engaged. Yes, some chat, some getting a yes, and some from the earlier one, tell him what I want or need. Yes, for sure. Absolutely. All right. So the second key is to increase attraction and libido, which can be challenging when you have children or you're perimenopausal or menopausal. We already mentioned at the beginning who has children. If you're listening on Facebook, you can let me know in the chat if you've got children, or is that been something that's been challenging for you? And I know some people mentioned in the beginning that, yeah, their libido had gone down after having children. So we're going to talk a little bit about, well, how the heck do we do that? So how do you increase attraction and libido? This is probably not what you're expecting. Invest time in getting to know your own unique body and your own combination. Guys, you're way better at that. We have a lot more shame as women around touching ourselves, self-pleasuring, getting to know our bodies. We're taught that you guys are supposed to be the knights in shining armor, come up and just take care of us. How many men, because I know I've got some men listening tonight, so women, just let your men answer. How many men love it when your partner actually knows her own body and she can ask you for what she wants? How many of you find that you like it, or it turns you on if she can say, in a nice way, when she knows how to ask you or direct you instead of you having to blindly fumble around, that she tells you if something's not pleasurable for her? Let me know if you love a woman who's confident in the bedroom, if that is you love when your partner, your wife, is confident in the bedroom and knows her own combination. And again, keep being kind to each other. My intention is holding space for all of you to be loving. So I'm getting a couple private messages. Yes, more confident. Yes. Okay, awesome. And this is something I would love for those of the men who are listening to understand, that as women, we have a lot of shame culturally around our bodies. I mean, even if you didn't grow up religious, we're taught that it was Eve's fault, right? It was all Eve's fault that she tempted Adam. So we have a lot of shame around touching our bodies. We have a lot of shame around, we think that once we're married, you're just supposed to take care of us sexually. But the irony is, if we actually want to have better intimacy and more sex and more libido and more lubrication, we actually need to self-pleasure. It doesn't mean our partner's not a great lover. We'll actually have better lovemaking if we have our own self-pleasuring. And guys, you are probably, maybe, I know, maybe that's not true. I don't know. The men that I have worked with say that they don't have as much shame around self-pleasuring as women do. So, and the more you're attracted to yourself, the more you like your own body, the more comfortable you're going to be in the bedroom. So, and all of this is, in my opinion and my experience with the hundreds of women I've worked with since 2008, my suggestion would be go test it out for yourself. Go and set up some time for some weekly self-pleasuring, and and find somebody. If you're like I was, I didn't actually know what I wanted. I didn't know my own anatomy. And like I said, it used to be painful when I was self-pleasuring. Then make sure you find somebody who has pleasure practices like I teach in my pleasure program, so that you can actually get to know your own body. But sadly, in our Western world, we're not taught how to navigate our own bodies. We're not taught what our bodies actually need to experience more orgasm, and 9 different types of orgasm. So that's one of the things that I help women. So make sure you find somebody who will teach you some pleasure practices so you can get to know your own body better, and then have better intimacy with your partner, which I promise you will. And prime your pump. So this is one of the things I want to talk about, is as women, what happens is often for us, we have children, we go through, the 9 months of pregnancy, we give birth, we're breastfeeding, we're exhausted. And what happens is when we don't actually make love for a while, it's like, I'm going to give an analogy of making a big, wide brush generalization. But when it's like, if you have a well and you stop using the well can actually dry up. There's nothing wrong with the well. It's just that the water might be down there somewhere, but if you're not actually using the well, then you have to prime the pump. So it's the same with our female bodies. If we stop making love with our partner and we stop self-pleasuring, we actually need to prime the pump. So when you actually, the more you self-pleasure, the more you make love, the more you self-pleasure, it'll actually grow, that they will increase together. So if you've had a decrease in libido because of having children and life changing and lack of sleep and all of that, no worries. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You just need to start priming your pump again and go and learn some pleasure practices, something like I share in my pleasure program, so that you can really figure out how to do that. All right. So there's nothing wrong with you. You're good. Now, there are some women that there is an exception that they might, need some other support. But I find my experience has been that most women just need to learn some practices, some pleasure practices. And I will give you an invitation at the end to book a pleasure breakthrough session with me. And in that, you are going to get some clarity about what is it that you're really yearning for with yourself and in your relationship with your beloved. And then we're going to transform at least one of those blocks that's stopping you from liberating pleasure. And a lot of times it is shame. Okay, so we'll have an opportunity to do some shame busting. And also during my 5 Secrets event, we're going to do some repatterning and transforming shame and dissolving some shame. And then together we're going to come up with your next best step so that you can have more pleasure and orgasm in your life. All right. So the third key to divorce proof your marriage, and then we will have a question and answer, is to actually increase intimacy. I want to tell you that when I was doing the research and studying, that the number 6 cause, the number 6 reason that marriages ended in divorce was lack of intimacy. The number 3 cause was lack of communication. And the number 1 cause of divorce was actually infidelity. So the sad truth is, if we don't take care of intimacy when it's at number 6 and we become one of the sexless marriages, like my marriage had become, my first marriage, then what happens is it can eventually lead to, miscommunication, people not talking to each other, and then eventually to infidelity. So it is important in our relationships. And the stats that I read also said that 65% of couples believe that intimacy is important, but a lot of them didn't know what to do about it. So that's one of the things in my pleasure program that I teach the women, is how to shift this in your relationship. So increase lovemaking and increase the frequency of lovemaking. And one of the women in my program, Anita, and her husband, Greg, there's an amazing, beautiful video testimonial. It's on YouTube. I can give the link if you want to share, take a look at that. But you just can go on Vireo Carvenin on YouTube, my name. And Anita and Greg shared a beautiful testimonial how, they were struggling with, Anita said, empty nest after her children had grown up, that libido had gone down. And through being in my pleasure program, she's been able to have deeper intimacy with her husband. They're communicating better. And the frequency of lovemaking has increased. So you can absolutely have that too. So what blocks or stop healthy intimacy, healthy sex life in and out of the bedroom? So kind of deepening what we talked about at the beginning with communication, these are all very intertwined, is lack of self-love. And if you have this going on, it might even just be it's a belief that's there, and you just need some mindset tools like I teach in my pleasure program so that you can transform those beliefs that maybe aren't even yours, or maybe you got them in utero. Inhibitions around sex. A lot of us, when I first started teaching around sacred sexuality, I used my mindset tool eventually to transform a lot of shame, because I felt a lot of shame even just teaching around it. We have so many taboos around sexuality in our society. The other thing that can block healthy intimacy in the bedroom is body image, right? Especially after childbirth and changes and perimenopause and menopause. So, and men for you as well, right? Your bodies change as you age as well. Maybe not as dramatically because you don't give birth to children, but you still go through changes. The other one is limiting beliefs. I highly recommend you work with someone like the mindset tools that I teach in my program and with my clients, so you can transform some of those beliefs, especially shame. And you can be more uninhibited in the bedroom. You can be more confident and free to ask for what you want. Cultural programming. The other one is ignorance, not educated. If you were like me, I didn't know what I didn't know. And shame is the biggest killer of intimacy and cause of many marriages being, let's see what I wrote, being sexless. And it does not have to be that way. So let's take a breath into that. And I would love to know in the chat, if you're willing to be brave, which one of these is the biggest challenge for you? And if you don't want to, you can always send it to me later. I would love to know how I can support you. But which one of those is the biggest blocker for you in the bedroom? Or which one would help you to have more intimacy if you actually moved through that one? And you can send it privately to me if you want as well. So we did define earlier, a sexless marriage is a marriage that's having 10 times or less a year. And if that's happening for you, no judgment, just breathe into it and know that you can get some support, with a intimacy, sexuality coach, and shift that so that you can be making love more times. And it's going to be contributing to your longevity and your immune system and all of those other wonderful things it's going to increase in your relationship. So what is healthy for the recommended amount of times to make love a year? Now, this is according to sexuality experts and health experts. They say 51 times a year. Now, this is, of course, in an ideal world, which we don't always have. So that would be basically weekly. And for some people, you might want to make love more often. Some men might say that's not enough. Some women might say that's not enough. I would say, though, in terms of having vital organs that are nourished and building your immune system, I would encourage you to go for a weekly. So I've got here right now, for some people, it said limiting beliefs are what's stopping them, body image, health issues. Yes, all of those. Yeah, health can be a big one, or not getting enough sleep. So yes, absolutely. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing those. So how to there's a typo there. All right. Increase intimacy is, like I said, you need to put yourself first and figure out your own body. And invest time and energy in your intimate relationship. Book a date. So all of you who showed up with your partner here tonight, raise your right arm, give yourself a pat on the back, and give a high five or a kiss or a hug to your partner that you showed up here tonight. Invest time, book a date, and book dates regularly. When we first get in a relationship, we put our best foot forward, we have time together, we do special things. And oftentimes, I understand, as parents, we get busy and we forget to tell each other how much we appreciate each other. We forget to book a date time and get a babysitter. And so important. And I want to mention intimacy, and then we should finish up in the next couple minutes, and then I'll have question and answer. So if you look at the word intimacy, I love that it's like into me see. So my experience has been that the more you can know yourself, into me see, into yourself see, the better intimacy you will have with your partner, and the better your partner will see you as well. And as women, let me know in the chat if this is true for you. The biggest yearning for the feminine is usually to be seen, to be loved and seen by her partner. And the biggest yearning for men, the research that I've done and the reading that I've done, but also interviewing hundreds of men and women, the biggest desire for men is to actually have to be trusted, for us to actually trust them. So I would love to know in the chat, if for men, if that's true for you, just put trust, yes. For women, if it's yes, you want him to see you, appreciate you, pay attention, yes, see you. Awesome. I see some people say it's a date tonight. Fantastic. Yes, pay attention to me. Yes, beautiful. Awesome. All right, let's breathe into that. So I want to just quickly review these here. So this is an opportunity. Remember at the beginning, I said that we only remember 10% of what we hear, 30% when you rewrite it down. So if you wrote it down, you're going to remember more. And when you actually share it back, you're going to increase that to 60. And if you try to teach it to somebody, talk about it with your partner, it's going to increase to 80%. So let me know in the chat, what was the #1 key to divorce-proof your marriage? Originally, I called it 50% of marriages end in divorce, how to change that. So what's the #1 way to divorce-proof your marriage? See if you can type that in the chat. And that will help you to remember it. Yes, communication. Ding, 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 ding. Awesome. If you wrote down communication with your partner, give each other a high five. What's the #2 key to increase? What are you going to increase in your relationship so that you can divorce-proof your marriage, your relationship? So yes, the first one is communication. Yes, increase attraction and libido. Ding, 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 ding. Awesome. Give yourselves a pat on the back. And what is the third key, the #3 key to divorce-proof your relationship? What do you want to increase so that you can divorce-proof your marriage and be happily married? My parents have been married 63 years. Yes, increase intimacy. Ding, 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 ding. All right. So let's see if we can fill in the other side. So I'm going to jump to the next slide. So yes, increase healthy communication, increase attraction and libido, and increase intimacy. If you do those things, when I looked at the actually top 10 reasons why marriages end in divorce, all of these are covered. If you are actually taking care of your communication, your own attraction and libido, taking care of your own self-pleasure, increasing intimacy and date nights, you are going to have a marriage that is not only long, but happy, healthy, and having lovemaking regularly. So what's the first thing with the increasing healthy communication? Take something for your feelings, triggers, and communication. See if you can remember that, and communicate from. I'll give some clues here. See if you can figure those out with your partner. Chat these out with your partner. See what you come up with. There might be I'll give you a minute to do that. See if you can remember some of the tips. Okay, so I'm seeing communicate when you've got good energy. Yes, when you're on the upside. Communicate from the upside when you're in those uplifting emotions. And if you're not blaming your partner, what would you be doing? Take something 100%. And what about the second one? Prime your what? What are you priming? So you can increase attraction and libido, prime your, and get to know what? Prime your pump. Ding, 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 ding. Yes. And what are you getting to know? And either one of those. In order to prime your pump, what do you need to get to know? And what matters? Yes, your own body self. And pleasure matters. Yes, you get nothing else from tonight. Your pleasure and your partner's pleasure matters. And to increase in intimacy, invest in what? And invest in something with your going to jump to the next slide. So we stay close to, apologize, we're going a little bit past time. So take 100% responsibility for your feelings, triggers, and communication. Communicate from the upside. Get some help with those mindset tools like I teach in my pleasure program. Find someone you resonate with. I help people to transform those draining beliefs and I help them to move towards uplifting. I help to dissolve shame and move towards owning pleasure as your birthright. And that will be happening in the 5 secrets that's coming. Prime your pump and get to know your own anatomy and combination. Your pleasure matters. Invest in yourself first and invest in your relationship with your beloved. So, next steps, I invite you, if you resonated with anything I shared here tonight and you want more about pleasure, you want to transform maybe one of those limiting beliefs, gift yourself a pleasure breakthrough. Anyone who's here tonight, men and women, you are all welcome to gift your own self, your own individual pleasure breakthrough. I only have a few spots left. If there's not a time, if they run out right away, I might open up some more if you message and let me know right away. And gift yourself 5 secrets to reignite your intimate desire, which is coming on October 19th to 23rd. I will type that in the chat. And I think that's what I have for you tonight. So let me put those 2 links in the chat, and then I'm going to stop. Actually, I'm going to stop the live stream right now. And I'm going to put those links in the chat, and we're going to stop the recording, and we'll have a Q&A.